Hi friends, good evening, good morning, whatever time of the day you are watching it, good afternoon also. So today I am in front of you with a video where I would talk of the Wall Street Journal report which stated that how Facebook has been manipulating hate speech, or how Facebook has had different standards on hate speech across the world, and how it is using them in India. Before we go to that, I would start first with a statement by Mark Zuckerberg, which basically says, this time I have a script handwritten, which basically says, in a report published in 1st of April 2019 in The Guardian, Zuckerberg said, government can't regulate Facebook. It's up to all of us to regulate ourselves, something like that. Yeah. So now this statement, if you see, it has dual meaning. If you look at it from the positive point of view, if the government in any country does not want to regulate hate speech, then Facebook can regulate hate speeches on its own. Positive way of looking at it. The negative way is, if the government wants to regulate, it will not regulate the hate speech, or it will regulate the hate speech based on what the government wants it to do. So the statement can be taken, or this can have dual meaning. Yeah. So now we'll park this thought and park this fact in your mind at this point of time, and then another person that I would like to introduce in this video, with who would play a crucial role in the climax of the video towards the end, is a lady called Miss Ankhi Das. She is the Facebook Public Policy Director. That's the name of the position she holds. Public Policy Director. A lot of newspapers in the Western media have called her as a lobbyist for Facebook, someone who lobbies for Facebook with the government of India. And her official position, Public Policy Director for Facebook India in South and Central Asia. And she has been at that position since 2011. So basically around 9 years now. Yeah. So with that background, and she's a student of JNU. So with that background, we park her also. Just important character, so I gave you an introduction to her. Before she became a public policy director with Facebook, she was with Microsoft as a public policy director, or policy director, something like that. Similar position. Now, so in this video, what we will start is Facebook audience. Number one, where does Facebook audience lie? Second, what I would cover is the Facebook revenue model. How does Facebook generate revenue? Third, I would come to what is the future strategy of Facebook. How does Facebook plan to grow? Now that it has reached almost everywhere in terms of social media, what is its future strategy? Fourth, I would come to what has been Facebook's various experiences with different governments in different countries when it comes to hate speeches. And fifth, at the end, I would come to how Facebook has been dealing with hate speech in India. Why at fifth? So that you have a background of all this. So start with the audience of Facebook. Facebook has the highest audience or user base in India, which is around 280 million, or you can say in Indian system as 28 crore. Yeah. After India, it is USA with 19 crore, and then it is Indonesia with 13 crore, and Brazil with 12 crore. So yeah. The highest user of Facebook is 28 crore in India, which is almost 30% of the population. Now the second important software or app in the Facebook bouquet or in the Facebook group owns is WhatsApp. And if I look at the data, WhatsApp is being used in India by around 340 million people. That is 34 crore. 120 crore की आबादी में 34 crore people are using WhatsApp. Yeah. Very important, but please remember this is the second data point which you should remember, that is around 32 to 33% of the Indian population. Now the third app which Facebook owns is Instagram, and that is used by around 8 crore Indians, which is around 5 to 6% of the total population. But Instagram is mostly used by young people, whereas Facebook and WhatsApp is used by people across all ages. So if you overall look and add the audience, it would come around 60 crore people. Now, I would not tell that this 60 crore people is 60 crore or half of India's population. But what I would say is, if you average it out, for example, I have an account on Facebook, I have WhatsApp, and I have Instagram too. But what I can say is WhatsApp is one thing which everyone has, even if they have Instagram or Facebook account, even if they don't have Instagram or Facebook account. So let us say that the highest amount of people that Facebook group, now I am saying it as Facebook group, and going forward I will also refer to it as Facebook or Facebook group, because to add Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram together, so we can say the highest that they can reach is around 34 crore people in India, and that is like 32 or 33% population of India. This is something which is very important to remember, and as a voter you should think, because if to win an election you need around 20% vote, and out of these 34 crore people who Facebook can reach, most of them are adult. So if you try to have a perspective, this is say around 50% or 60% of the voting population that, or 70% of the voting population that Facebook is reaching. Because India has a higher percentage of younger people below 18, we are a growing population, and our population curve is more like a tree where, the younger people are at the bottom. Yeah. Now I'll come, so now you have a perspective of the reach and how it can influence India's democracy and election and everything. Yes, the second part of this video, which is basically how Facebook is making its revenue. We all use Facebook for free, we don't pay for it. So Facebook makes its revenue or its earnings from advertisements. Now in India, we know that BJP as a political party is one of the highest spenders when it comes to advertisements. So we can assume, or we can make a guess, or we can speculate that a lot of this earning for Facebook, which comes from political parties, is from BJP. Facebook does not give or does not make public the amount of earnings it has from political or non-political sources, or also it does not make public the amount of income it has from various parties, because maybe it considers it as user privacy data or advertiser privacy data, because user data is not very private on Facebook. Yeah, so keep this also in mind, that revenue source is advertisement, which is the only source of revenue for Facebook. And who could be one of the biggest advertisers? In my opinion, when it comes to politics, it would be BJP, because they have the highest amount of funding. But Facebook has never made this data public, so this is a speculation or my thought that I add or share with you. Now the third point, what is the future strategy of Facebook and how India plays a major role in it? The Facebook is a social media platform for now, but going forward, Facebook aims to be an e-commerce marketplace. It is planning to give competition to Amazon, Flipkart and all. Even now, if you see on Facebook, the marketplace, a lot of people are already selling things. For example, the used things. Like if you are leaving the city, you put a lot of things on Facebook for sale. Yeah. So that is the future, and India has the highest population. If you know, India could be a very big marketplace for Facebook if it is very successful in launching its marketplace. And the third thing, if you see, since long time we have had on our WhatsApp option called as WhatsApp Pay, and that is something which WhatsApp has been trying to promote to take on the other paying apps in India like Google Pay, Phone Pay, and Paytm. This is a market which Facebook group or WhatsApp has been trying to reach, and since last 2 years it is stuck. Very important to note that since last 2 years it did not get passed, and this year I think they have invested into Jio. Why Jio? Again, just another information which is not related to this video. If you remember that there was a news yesterday that TikTok has been banned, but now Anil Ambani is going to acquire TikTok for India, I think for some amount, maybe 5 billion or something. And so TikTok may come back to India, not as a Chinese app, but as an Indian app owned by Anil Ambani. Yeah. Now, so the revenue sources of Facebook, as you see, it is currently from advertisements, but in future it would be from e-commerce. Yeah. And the fourth, how Facebook has had various interactions with various governments when it comes to regulating hate speech. To start with, I would start with not the home country where Facebook was born, but with the country in which USA fought a lot, Vietnam. So in Vietnam, the government, what they did is they slowed down the Facebook server so much that the people were not able to browse Facebook as smoothly as me and you can browse. Yeah. So then Facebook got into a discussion with the government of Vietnam, and they reached an agreement that people whom the government of Vietnam think as dissidents, or so you can say opposition to the government of Vietnam, their profiles are removed from Facebook app, a Facebook platform, which includes Instagram also. So Facebook basically had an agreement with the government to remove people who don't agree with the government. Yeah. That is how it regulated hate speech or dissent to the government. From Vietnam, we come to Singapore. So in Singapore, whichever news the government says or declares as fake, Facebook had to put, the exact term is correction notice on those posts that this post is fake. For example, if you have to take it or see it from the Indian point of view, think of Rafale jets. If you know that the Rafale jets which were promised or which were dealt or whatever was the cost reached during the Congress period was lower than for which we bought it finally, there are different arguments and counter arguments to it. I would not get into it, this not in the scope of this video. But any post which would have talked of Rafale jet getting costlier would have been deemed as fake by Facebook. Now, the third country where Facebook has had a different way of dealing with hate speech or fake news is Germany. In Germany, Facebook had to adapt stricter norms for regulating hate speech. And as you know, in Germany, we have the Christian Democratic Party, CDU, headed by Angela Merkel, not a right-wing party. So they had a very strict rule on, they were forced to adopt a stricter rule on hate speeches. Now we come, before we go to the Indian context, the last example that I would like to give is from the United States of America, where Facebook was founded and which has, I think, higher free speech than most countries. I would not say the highest, but yeah. So in USA, there was a radio jockey whose name was Alex Jones, I think. Yeah. He was banned from all Facebook platforms because Facebook found its content to be hateful and it could incite violence. Similarly, there were organizations whose profiles were deleted from all Facebook group. Facebook and Instagram, WhatsApp, everywhere. Yeah. Those were, I think, Nation for Islam, and even the leader of that, Louis Farooq. And there were various white supremacist organizations in USA, as you know, the white and black thing. Even their profiles were deleted from Facebook. So that is how Facebook dealt with hate content when it came to USA. Now, I would come to the Indian context. So, remember that lady I pointed out, Ankhi Das? So, Ms. Das would play an important role when it comes to Indian context. So, I would just give two examples. One is, if you remember, Zuckerberg himself gave an example of hate speech that Facebook would not want to be a platform allowing hate speech for a Delhi BJP MLA candidate Kapil Mishra. Also, another example that I would like to give to you is of the Telangana MLA T. Raja Singh. T. Raja Singh, we know, has been notorious for his hate speeches. For example, on his online platforms, he gave speeches which basically called for Rohingya immigrants to be shot, and on his social media platforms, Mr. T. Raja Singh, MLA in Telangana, also said that Muslims are terrorists, and he also put out posts asking people to gather to bring down and raise mosques, breaking the mosque and all. So these statements have real world effect, just like the speeches made by Kapil Mishra had, because these are going to incite people to do violence. Now, Facebook did obviously people would have reported it, and Facebook did an internal inquiry on these posts, and they found that these posts do not violate the Facebook community standards. However, they were qualified as dangerous, a designation which takes into account, so this is what I'm quoting from that article, a designation that takes into account a person's off-platform activities. For example, as an MLA, whatever he says on the social media platform also has repercussions on the real life. So taking into that account, Facebook had dedicated his profile as dangerous. Yeah, but he was not banned from any of the social media platform. His posts still exist. Yeah. So I don't know. In my opinion, those counted as hate speech and should have called for it. Now we will come to another thing. Now, why was this post not deleted? So it is been accepted by Facebook that this post was not deleted because of the interference of Ms. Das. Remember the lady whom we talked at the beginning? The lady who is the head of Facebook Public Policy Director in India. She interfered saying that she interfered saying that this would have she reportedly told, I'm just reading it out, she reportedly told that pushing violations by politicians against politicians of BJP would damage companies' prospect in India. So this is the exact line which I'm reading from the Wall Street Journal. Basically it says she's of the opinion that if they are banning hate speeches or deleting the profiles of different BJP leaders, it would hamper the company's prospects in India. Now we have to think of what prospects. The two business prospects that I reminded you before is one, WhatsApp Pay, which has not yet come. Second is Facebook's intention to start as an e-commerce site or e-commerce marketplace in India. And third is the advertisement revenues. All these three. Yeah? And this is something which even Andy Stone, who is also a spokesperson by Facebook, accepted that yes, she said this, but he also said that it was on her interference was not the only reason for them not to delete his speeches, but they accept that this interference was there by her. Now, Ms. Das, who is head of Facebook Public Policy, interesting long name of the post, Public Policy Director. Yeah, she wrote an article in 2017 praising Modi. And it was published, and that article was also published on Narendra Modi's website. Now, as a conclusion, what I could say is, Ms. Ankhi Das has a very influential position on a platform which has potential reach of more than 50% of the voters in India, and she interferes on posts which are hate speeches as in different countries, because what he says has real life consequences. On those hate speeches, she interferes so that those are not removed, because it would hamper Facebook's prospects in India. So if you see that Facebook is not acting as a social media platform which has same metric in every country and same metric for every party. Even before 2014 election, a lot of pages were brought down or deleted by Facebook. Many of them included those from Congress party. Even the pages that I were admin of, all of a sudden the admin rights are removed for everyone. So I have also experienced this action by Facebook on right before the elections. So imagine what if before the next election or before anything else, Facebook puts a curb on anything free speech which is against the government. Why? Because Facebook is looking for revenues. So this is how Facebook has an influence on affecting everyone's life in India. And I leave it up to you to think that, imagine how much effect it can do. It can affect elections, it can change your views, it can sniffle or you can kill your voice or kill your opinion. So you decide how far reaching consequences it can have, and please do leave it in the comment what you think would be more far-reaching consequences of this. And if you did like the video, then please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.